Welcome to the World of Horror Quinny-sode. This is the cute and dorky cousin of the World of Horror podcast, where we talk vintage and vintage-ish movies in our Midwestern accents. I'm Christina.
And I'm Quinn.
And our mission is to make a connection between the movies covered on the main episode last week. Last week, Mac and I discussed the 1988 Dutch thriller Spoorloos and the 1993 American remake, The Vanishing. The story involves a family man who kills two French tourists. So I thought it might be fun to discuss some movies we like on the theme of double life. Hi, Quinn. How's it going?
Hey, Christina. It's going well. Before I forget, I find your "so I thought it might be fun" thing just so delightful because it's always about something a little bit horrific. And it just makes me happy when I listen to it. So,
well, thank you for saying that. That was sort of for me. So just because it makes me happy too. And it cracks me up every time I hear myself say it. So that's why I keep doing it. So I'm glad somebody else likes it.
I love it.
So I know you had a big day. We don't have to necessarily talk about that. Everything's fine. But you also just got back from Michigan. And I was wondering if you want to talk about that.
Sure, I will a little. I just got back from Michigan about a week or so ago. And it's been a big week of sort of trying to put school stuff together for the fall and, an operating system download not going well on my end for the old laptop. So it's just been a kind of crazy world I've lived in the past week. A lot of chaos, but it's good. And I have so much prepping to do. Just as per usual, I'm behind. I thought I got a little bit ahead, but then I realized, no, Quinn, you had too many summer classes to take care of.
Yeah.
So I didn't get ahead. And I'm going to be doing the typical Quinn style, hurry up and get ready right before the semester starts type of thing. And that's okay, because I'm used to that. And it is what I'm used to. So I'll survive it. And I'm looking forward to a little bit easier of a week in terms of obstacles in my path, I hope.
Oh, yeah. I think you're definitely overdue for smooth sailing, girl.
I think so, too. Yeah. And it's been good stuff in the last week, but just stuff that's kind of been obstacles in the road.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm grumpy. And I woke up grumpy, and I usually can shake it. And I think I kind of did. We're recording at 5:36 in the evening, and I got up at 4 whenever I get up. So I woke up in a bad mood, and I'm back in a bad mood. I'm sure I'll feel better, as we go along talking, but I went to my therapist, and that was great. And she's so encouraging, but sometimes I'm like, you're really congratulating me for not doing very much, by my standards. But she's like, you made it here today. And I'm like, well, yeah, not like I wasn't gonna get in my car and drive over. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that should be celebrated. I love that. And I think everything, honestly, at this point in life, with sort of the unpredictability of life that, is just life these days, but also I don't know, 2021 is weird. I think we should celebrate everything that we do. Sometimes it's just really hard to get things done, and to do something that is already inherently hard, like therapy, that should be celebrated to the full degree.
Yeah. And then she's been putting these notes in, and I get a little text and I get an email. I get like 3 notifications for everything from that office. But for my after visit summary, and I didn't know I had major depressive disorder, but it's on there. So I was like, oh, okay. That's what I am. I'm a major depressive.
That's crazy. I think that people should talk about labels like that if they're connecting them with you. I know you know this story, but I once went to a general practitioner around Greensboro. This was years ago. And I just knew from the beginning that we were not going to be a good fit. But he had been taking notes and he left the room and left the notes on the table. And in big block letters, it said high strung. And I was like, you did that on purpose, dude. And you are just amping my high stringiness. What are you doing? I mean, to label it like that, we hadn't been talking that long. And he's just a general practitioner. He's not a therapist or a psychiatrist or anything like that. That's the only notes that he had, and they were in all caps. And to leave it on the table, I felt like I should have reported him. Honestly, now talking about it, I think I should report him. But that is so weird to see a label like that of a diagnosis that maybe you didn't talk to someone about. Not that that's weird, but my example, that's ridiculous and should never have happened.
Yeah.
Your example, kind of interesting just to see that label or the diagnosis.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds. I mean, it's not like I was completely shocked. But major depressive. I'm a moderate depressive. I don't know. Well, anyway, she and I have done a lot of like inner child work and dealing with PTSD and, so, okay. I just never really thought of myself that way, I guess. I thought I have a little bit of depression, but she goes at the very end, she's like checking off her little thing. She's a great therapist, by the way, but at the end, she's like checking off her thing and she goes, any thoughts of suicide? And I didn't say anything. And she goes, today? And I said, well, sometimes it crosses my mind, but I mean, just keeps going, but it does cross my mind. And she goes, yeah, that's part of your intrusive thoughts, which is part of your OCD. And I didn't know I had OCD either. I can function and enjoy my life. So that's all that I want.
Right.
Yeah.
All the more reason to celebrate the little things. And I think we should all do that. But especially right now and, for someone with depressive, no, I'm just kidding.
She did have a suggestion, which I actually took. And you might have heard this tip before, but she wants me to set goals in 7 areas of my life. And first set the goal for a year from now, and then 6 months from now, and then 3 months from now, and then 1 month from now, and then 1 week from now. And I started with health, but she's got social life, professional life, financial life, all of these things. And I actually did it, and it was good. It kind of snapped me into like, oh, well, if I want to be at this certain place in a year, I got to do stuff today to make that happen. Do you know what I mean? And so I think it's a really good suggestion because I'm pretty smart, but I didn't realize that. So.
Yeah, I like that. I like that suggestion a lot.
Okay. Well, today we are going to talk about double life movies, and we've got a bunch because we just kept like brainstorming and coming up with more and more. And so what we thought we'd do is go from the oldest to the most recent to the second oldest. You guys are going to figure it out. Quinn heads. I don't know what to call the people who listen to this podcast, but I'm calling them Quinn heads or Q heads until somebody gives me a better idea.
What do you think about Q-tips?
I do like it, but there's a musician named Q-Tip, and yeah, Cindy suggested QAnons, and I'm like, no.
No, 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 no. Cue balls.
Cue
That
balls.
sounds
Oh, that's
cute.
cute. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and it's like, not see you. Isn't a cue ball in pool?
Yeah,
DUE?
it's
Oh
the
God.
white, it's
Okay.
the white ball. I like that. That's like a little pun, and I like puns. So our oldest movie today that touches on the theme of a double life is Vertigo.
Okay, so this segment is called Do You Believe That Someone Out of the Past, Someone Dead, Can Enter and Take Possession of a Living Being? And this is from Alfred Hitchcock's 1958 masterpiece, Vertigo. Screenplay written by Alec Koppel and Samuel Taylor, based on the novel by Pierre Boulou called D'Entrant les Morts, which Christina pointed out is also the author of Les Diaboliques.
Yeah, the book that Les Diaboliques was based on. Isn't that so cool? Apparently, Quinn, this guy was like super prolific.
Oh, wow. So this is translated to From the Dead. And really quick one sentence summary: a former police detective juggles wrestling his personal demons and becoming obsessed with a hauntingly beautiful woman. And that woman is Kim Novak. She plays both Madeline Elster and Judy Barton in this film. Jimmy Stewart plays John Scotty Ferguson. Barbara Bel Geddes plays Midge. And Tom Helmore plays Gavin Elster. So just quick, the setup here is that Gavin Elster, who is an old school buddy of Scotty's, contacts him and asks him to follow his wife, who he believes is being sort of possessed by a great-great-grandmother. And what you find out in the very beginning is that Scotty was a police detective on the force, and he was involved in a chase, and something went wrong. He was leaping from a building to another building, and he looked down and he got what is known as vertigo, which isn't just a fear of heights, but it's a fear of heights with a dizzying layer, and where he would look down and become completely paralyzed. So, and you can get vertigo by just standing up, or you can get it from a height. And so, from the beginning, he's not disgraced necessarily, but he is, he was struck with this illness while doing his job, and it resulted in the death of a coworker, another police officer. So I've talked about vertigo before on this show. I love vertigo. I usually teach it in class, in my intro to film class. I usually will teach it at the end because it is such a beautiful showcase of many elements of film. Some that are within this film, I think, that are really nicely highlighted are the tracking shots, the Zali shot, also known as the trombone shot, also known as the contra zoom shot. He also uses computer graphics in the opening sequence that Saul Bass made. And you see those computer graphics come back in a similar style when Jimmy Stewart, kind of in the middle of the film, has a dream sequence that sets off a kind of a mini breakdown. And it really does mark the middle of the film. This, for me, well, let me just a couple more stats. It's 2 hours and 8 minutes. It was released in 1958 on May 22nd in the United Kingdom. For me, this film provokes a lot of nostalgia because I love it, but I've been watching it for a long time. So I do remember the first time watching it feeling a little bit like I was being misled by Hitchcock, because it kind of operates as two films, sort of, and the middle really kind of truncates those two films. And I'm not going to give away the whole plot or the whole narrative, but there are twists, there are turns, and it does become more than what I initially thought it was, as you know, upon my first watch, which was a ghost story. It is much more than that. It is more deeper, much more complex. And it really is about the obsession, what we think of as an ideal in ways. We see that with Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak. So this movie to me is really fits in this theme because Kim Novak is playing two different characters. They are the same person. So it's a dual role, sort of a double life. She's playing the wife of Gavin Elster, who Jimmy Stewart's following. And that's Madeline Elster. And then the second half of the movie, she plays Judy Barton, who she is really in the first half because she's playing a role. So I love watching this film if just to watch Kim Novak play these multiple roles. It really does become more than two roles as it's quite layered, but there's a lot of duality in this film. There's a lot of duality in Hitchcock films in general, but we see that a lot in this one as well. This one, you know, famously shot on location for a good part of it in San Francisco. Just beautiful. We've talked about the color filters, the haze of the city, the tracking shots, the idea that there's parts of this film where you will get 25 minutes where there is no dialogue. So I've talked ad nauseum about this, but pure cinema just beautifully showcased in this film. Couple pieces of trivia. So I mentioned that in terms of elements of film, you've got the Zolly / trombone / contrazoom. And that is something that we see now in films, but it was developed in this film. So an uncredited second unit cameraman, Erman Roberts, invented the famous zoom out and track in shot. And now it's called the contrazoom or trombone shot. I see it a lot as the Zolly. And this conveys the sense of vertigo to the audience. So it really is a visual of what Jimmy Stewart is feeling. And it does make you feel like you're going to throw up sometimes. And it does make you feel like you're dizzy and you want to pass out. So the view down the mission stairwell costs $19,000 for just a couple seconds of screen time.
Whoa, really?
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Wow.
The technique was inspired by a time when Hitchcock had fainted during a party and he was drunk. And he kind of felt this unease. And it really is a beautiful piece of imagery to connect to what we know of vertigo, which I don't know a whole lot about it, but it seems like a perfect companion to that. Now it's a lot cheaper to do. And really what it is in layman's term is it's either tracking in and zooming out or tracking out and zooming in. So it really does squish a frame and kind of makes you sick if it's done in a certain way. A lot of times directors, Martin Scorsese does it a lot, but he does it pretty subtly. So it's almost difficult to see. So when a director does it more overtly, like in Vertigo, it catches your attention because it probably is going to make you feel something physical. Another piece of trivia, there's a 25-year age difference between Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak, who were 49 and 24, respectively, when it was shot in 57. The on-location filming lasted 16 days. I don't have the number or the amount of time that the studio film lasted filming. And another piece, Hitchcock originally wanted Vera Miles to play Judy, but she became pregnant and therefore was unavailable. And she was in his next film, Psycho, in 1960, played Lila, Marion's sister. So that's it. I love this film. I love to teach it. And typically students have a lot of refreshing things to say about it. when I do, or at least can have a really good dialogue about representation, mental illness, even. And I love talking about this and talking about pure cinema. Perfect.
Do you remember Time Crimes?
Yes.
Do you think that Time Crimes was influenced by this movie? Like the shot of the roof shot.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I would not be surprised at all to hear that, to read that.
I'll look it up, not now on the pod, but I'll look it up later. But I have a feeling it was. I mean, a lot of people quote Hitchcock, as sort of an homage, and so I'm sure, if it is, it was definitely, a nod to Hitchcock.
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing that. Yeah, he never worked with Jimmy Stewart after this film. I don't know if I mentioned this before, like last time we talked about Vertigo, which would have been, I think, during The Ring. But he never worked with Jimmy Stewart again. He oftentimes blamed Jimmy Stewart for the fact that the film didn't do really well box office wise. This film was one of those that was found later and really appreciated much further after, it debuted. But he kind of blamed Jimmy Stewart because he didn't feel like he could carry the role of the romantic lead at his age. But I mean, who cast Jimmy Stewart? It was Hitchcock, right? So,
well, that I was curious about that too, because you said it's 25 years age difference. Was there anybody else that was considered for the role? I mean, I love Jimmy Stewart, but that's a big age difference.
Yeah. And there's some people I think that could for sure pull that off, like Cary Grant. If there's an age difference, that's okay. It's Cary Grant. Pull that off to the effect that you believe that Judy really is in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit difficult, but it's kind of it's a layered film, I think. When I think about not buying the love interest, I don't know, I can justify it a little bit. But yeah, he did blame Jimmy Stewart for that, which it's his fault he cast him, but it didn't do well financially, and he wanted it to do really well. I mean, he wants every film to do well. Everyone would want their film to do well. But this was one of the first where he showcased a city, and it was like a love letter to San Francisco. And he, just because of that, he wanted, it to be successful, but it's a tricky movie. It's a risk. It's a risky movie. The whole story itself it's out there. So it's one of, I think, his most out there films, honestly. And he relies so much on that silence as well, that it's almost, that in and of itself is such a risk. But yeah, I love this one. And I don't even we may come back to this one someday. I don't care, because I'll just keep doing little bits. I love it.
No, I'm sure we will. Yeah, it's like we keep bookmarking, we're going to come back to this one. I mean, it does deserve its own discussion, because it's really beautiful to look at, and but then the plot is just so great. And Kim Novak is so fucking beautiful. I can hardly even stand it.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Yeah, and the film itself, I think it stays with you. It's a haunting film. And some of that, I think, is those filters, those haze, the light filters, the haze of the city and everything like that. But it just stays with you. And a lot of that is the silence. And I think a lot of it rests in the beauty of Kim Novak, because she really is this presence, this force that's just, oh God, she's so gorgeous. And she does look untouchable as Madeline. I love it. It's fun.
It's a good choice, Quinn. This next segment is called I Really Don't Have Good Luck with Women. They End Up Being Murderers. And I have chosen The Babysitter and The Babysitter Killer Queen for this theme. The Babysitter came out in 2017. It was filmed actually in 2015, though. That'll be important later. And then the second one came out last year. Both were directed by McG, written by Brian Duffield. Duffield directed Spontaneous. So, I mean, it's a competent script and it's fun. And the first one, I just wanted to talk about this one because in the first one, Samara Weaving plays the babysitter and she's hot as fuck. But she and the kid, whose name is Cole, have this relationship that seems very pure, as the kids say. You know, he's on the brink of adolescence and she is like super like sexy and everything, but there isn't any like gross stuff that like you might find in like an 80s sex comedy. And this is more of a slasher than a sex comedy anyway. But the twist is that she is in a death cult and they have to perform a blood sacrifice for the devil. And the poor kid who sacrificed is named Sam. So his name becomes Sacrifice Sam for the rest of the movie. The first part I really enjoy. I mean, the part with the kid and the babysitter is very sweet. They reenact a scene from an old Western. They think about who are the 5 people they'd want on their science fiction, I don't know, force team, whatever. And he really admires her, but then when he realizes she's in this devil cult, he's got to kill everybody, and he does. And the deaths are really good, especially the death of I think his name is John. He's the black kid. So there's like the black kid, the jock, the cheerleader, and then her, and then there's Hannah Mae Lee. I don't know what her deal is. I think she's like a social media person. Anyway, okay. So then I watched the second one, which is also directed by McG, but this is written by Dan Lagana, Brad Morris, Jimmy Warden, and McG, based on characters by Brian Duffield. So different writer. And I actually like the second one more, even though I don't think it's as good as the first. One of the reasons for that is Ken Marino plays the dad, and he has a bigger part in the second movie. So I think anytime you can see Ken Marino on screen, it's a good time. The deaths are also pretty good in the second movie. And the twist is pretty cool. Samara Weaving comes back for a little bit to explain that the original reason she made the deal with the devil was to spare the life of this other kid that she babysat, who is now the love interest of Cole. That was kind of a cool thing, but a deal's a deal. And so it doesn't end very well for Samara, but I like her. She's so cool and she was so great in Ready or Not. And I just want to see her more and more and more. So just a little bit of trivia. Allison mentions Lord of the Rings. Samara Weaving's uncle Hugo Weaving starred in the Lord of the Rings movies. Cole looks significantly older than in the original, even though the events take place only 2 years later. And that's because there was actually a 4-year difference between filming the films. When Phoebe sits down at the desk next to Cole, you can see she has a tattoo of a black cat on her left wrist. B has the same tattoo on her right wrist. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. These are not movies that you want to sit and study. I mean, they're just kind of popcorn, good time, watch a bunch of teenagers get killed movies. So if that's what you like, you might like this one. There are a couple problems, especially the first one. I think the portrayal of the black character is off key. Is that a phrase people use? Off key? I don't know. It's not I made me feel uncomfortable. And I mean, these are really shallow characters. None of them has any depth to them at all, except Samara Weaving's character. But still, I thought the portrayal of the Black character was not great, and maybe could have flown in an 80s movie. But since this is not an 80s movie, I think, that might bother some viewers. But anyway, that's what I got for that one.
You think it was done for a purpose, or is it one of those things that just kind of happened? Like, was it done to highlight a stereotype that is typical?
I mean, maybe it was, except they didn't really do it in the second one. So that makes me think that maybe somebody said, guys, get your shit together. But maybe it was. I mean, the cheerleader gets shot in the boob, and that's like the joke. My boob, who's going to want to motorboat me now? So it's like that she's just a sex object, and he's just a bunch of cliches. And yeah, so maybe, I mean, I don't really find that funny, but maybe some people do. But I think there could have been a different part of the character you could have played with instead of that. But
yeah, I have not seen these, so
well, I really liked them the first time I saw them, and then I watched them again for this, and then I didn't like them as much. So I mean, I don't think there's, I mean, they kind of do some cool stuff, but I don't really know that you need to go out of your way to watch these. But if you're looking for kind of a light slasher movie. All right. So next up is Parent Trap.
Okay. This segment is called You Want to Meet Father, and I'm just dying to meet Mother. It might be so scary that we might just be able to pull it off. That was not a great Haley Mills impression at all, but this is from David Swift's 1961 film, The Parent Trap, based on the novel by Eric Kastner. Basic summary, one sentence summary: teenage twin sisters swap places and scheme to reunite their divorced parents. So these are teenage sisters that don't know that they exist. They meet each other at camp. And so the first quarter of the movie is them at camp, and the very beginning is them kind of angry with each other because they look like one another. And the film is starring Haley Mills as Sharon and Susan, Maureen O'Hara as Maggie, Brian Keith as Mitch, and Charles Ruggles as Charles. Una Merkel as Verbena, Leo Carroll as Reverend Mosby, and Joanna Barnes as Vicky. There was a remake of this film that I have not seen that is starring Lindsay Lohan. And Joanna Barnes, who plays Vicky in the original, I guess makes a comeback in the remake as the character of Vicky's mother. So this was released June 21st, 1961. It is 2 hours and 9 minutes. And this was a stretch for this week's theme of double lives. But, it is one of those films where they switch places, which I think, happened a lot in the 80s. We saw that a lot in films. But this is, 60s. And they completely switched personas. One, Susan lives with her mother in Boston, and Sharon lives with her father in California, and they each have that sort of East Coast, West Coast persona. So they completely switch places and become, the other person, and they do fool their parents for a while. But, they are reunited when Susan tells her mother that she's not Susan, that she's Sharon, or vice versa. At this point, I'm not really sure. And wow, Sharon's and Susan's, that gets confusing. But this is nostalgic for me. I grew up watching this film, and I love Haley Mills. And, just seeing her in these two roles where she's not really that different, but she has these subtle differences. It just makes me happy. And I love Maureen O'Hara so much. And I love just to see her face. And Brian Keith has the most amazing face, I think, in persona. And he is such a Western star that I love a lot. So some trivia that comes along with this film. The screenplay originally called for only a few trick photography shots of Hayley Mills in scenes with herself. The bulk of the movie was to be shot using a body double. When producer Walt Disney saw how seamless the process shots were, he ordered the script reconfigured to include more of the visual effect. And it is done really well. Knowing this trivia before going into this watch, I did kind of look for points when I saw the body double, and I really hardly ever noticed it at all. Another piece of trivia, Brian Keith and Maureen O'Hara appeared in The Rare Breed in 1966 together, where Hayley Mills' older sister, Juliette Mills, plays Maureen's daughter. Susan Henning took on the role as Hayley Mills' body double for many of the twin shots in the movie. As part of her contract, she signed away her rights to be credited. At the wrap party, Walt Disney presented her with a small statue of Donald Duck called the Duckster in recognition of the best unseen performance on film. Miss Henning subsequently appeared in the Elvis Presley vehicle Live a Little, Love a Little in 1968. And last piece of trivia, in an interview in 2020, Hayley Mills admitted that she was jealous. She said that she had a huge crush on Elvis Presley and wrote him a fan letter. Surely he would respond to Hayley's letter, but he did not. Hayley said she was crushed, but Susan Henning got to act in a scene with Elvis and actually got to dance with him. And after this, Hayley Mills vowed to answer all of her fan mail personally, which is cool. This is one to check out. I think it's just cute and it's sweet and it's fun. And it really does showcase Hayley Mills as a wonderful actress. And of course, Maureen O'Hara and Brian Keith, I think, are just fabulous in this. And it's really fun. And if you like this kind of like, let's switch places type of movie, you got to see this one because it really does. I think it's really iconic in this genre, and it's fun because it's light, especially in like a double life theme. So I would absolutely check it out. It's really fun, and I had honestly so much fun watching it. When I turned it on, I thought, why did I pick this? I don't want to watch this. 10 minutes in, I was hooked. It's just a lot of fun, and I love the beginning. I love the scenes at camp. They just, I don't know, they just make me nostalgic, and this whole movie does. It reminds me of this era in my life where on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Walt Disney Presents came on. And this was one of those I think they may have showed a lot. So this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe we should have Disney Corner. Because you're our Disney correspondent. I'm not a Disney person. We weren't brought up that way. I don't know what that means, but I don't have the same, experiences that you do. And I kind of wish I did because they're so wholesome. And the movies that you've shown me are like super fun. Do you think that your niece Kennedy would like this movie, or is it too old for her?
It's probably too old for her right now, but I actually did show this to my niece Lucy. And that's David's daughter. So I showed her this a couple of years ago, and it had been since my childhood that I had seen it a couple of years ago. And I just randomly was like, oh my gosh, this is free. Do you want to watch this? And she just was like, sure. And usually she's a tough get. Like, she won't watch something unless she's watched it a bunch of times. And she's certainly not going to really like get into a 60s movie. But she was hooked too. I remember just sitting on the couch, like, and just smiling and watching it with her. And she was laughing and she really liked it. So I think it can stand the test of time. Some of these older Disney movies are a little bit scary. I just think of, I don't know, bed knobs and broomsticks and Return to Witch Mountain and Darby O'Gell and the Little People, which I think that's Disney. You know, they all have this kind of creepy undertone. This one does not at all. It is very wholesome and it's lovely. And it's just it's a nice little movie.
I also wanted to mention that one of my favorite podcasts, You Are Good, just did a show on The Parent Trap, a whole show on The Parent Trap. So anyone who's interested in that, including you, should check it out because that's a great podcast. They do a super good job over there.
Yeah.
Have this girl crush and probably age inappropriate crush on Sarah Marshall. So there's that. So our next segment is called We're Americans. And that's a quote from Us, which is a 2019 American horror film, which follows Adelaide Wilson and her family who are attacked by a group of menacing doppelgangers. It was written and directed, and if you look at the credits, it also says produced by Jordan Peele. And it stars Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Elizabeth Moss, and Tim Heidecker. It came out on March 22nd, 2019 in the US and has a running time of 116 minutes. So this movie was pretty big when it came out. So a lot of people have probably already seen it. I think it's a really good choice. I watched it the other day, which I think was only the second time I had seen it, the first being in the theater when it came out. And I liked it a whole lot more the second time. So this might be one of those movies that just sort of improves with, repeated watchings, because I was actually looking for clues and Easter eggs and things like that. So for me, that's fun. I like to do that kind of thing. In terms of the double life, one of the things that I think is interesting about this movie is that it has a lot to say about the US, which us and the US, I'm sure that's no accident, about how what are we doing here? What are we doing here as Americans? Winston Duke's character is completely obsessed with his neighbor's wealth and possessions and stuff. And even after the family is attacked and killed in the house, he wants to stay there because he feels like they're going to be safe. And obviously they are not safe. He just has this obsession with wanting to one-up his neighbor. And I think that is a thing. I don't participate in that, I don't think. I don't know. I think that part with Winston Duke just shows that his priorities are all fucked up. I mean, they're in danger. Their friends have all been murdered. And, he's still like, this is a great house. So I don't know. It's kind of fucked up. I think the scene at Tim Heidecker's house is my favorite. That whole segment is my favorite. They have twins, of course. Okay, so Us has like a bunch of symbolism and references to doubles or twins. And so Tim Heidecker and Elizabeth Moss have twins. The twins are killed by their doppelgangers. And then, so the doppelganger for Tim Heidecker's character makes like he's going to help his wife. And then he does that thing that you do in middle school where you like pull your hand back and like you're going to like style your hair back. He does that move because it's been established that they fucking hate each other. So they have, all this wealth, and she's gotten some plastic surgery done, and they fucking hate each other. It's so disgusting to watch this couple the setup of the movie is, or what we come to learn in the movie is, everybody on Earth has their own doppelganger, and these doppelgangers are living underground. They can't talk, and they are violent, and they've been organized to rise up and take their place above ground. So there's like mass killings and murders and all this attacks all over the place as the doppelgangers kill the people who are above ground. And the twist is that the person we've been following, Adelaide, is actually one of the underground people, and she was swapped out when she was a kid. And so the whole time we've been sort of rooting for her, you know, she's one of us, but actually she's one of them. You know, there is no them, but we do tend to look down on people who don't have as much wealth as we do, or are in circumstances that we don't want to think about, like people who have grave mental disorders, or the unhoused, or the people who are living below the poverty line. We don't like to think about that. And so we don't treat those people very well, by and large. And we do sometimes think of them as not us, but they are. And the little boy says that. The little boy, Jason, says they're us pretty early on in the film. So I feel like Jordan Peele is a fun filmmaker because I think he's a nerd. Like the doppelganger for the little boy's name is Pluto. Pluto is the god of the underworld. Come on. He just does these fun little things. Like 11:11 is very important in this movie. There's a Bible verse that is referenced in the text, and it says, "You're fucked. God's mad at you." You're fucked. But like the baseball game is tied 11-11. One of the teams is Minnesota Twins. So there's just like this constant like repetition over and over, which is really, you know, it's pretty fun. Another piece of trivia or whatever is that Tim Heidecker's tattoos are of antlers on each arm to reference Get Out, the first movie that Jordan Peele made. And I liked this little bit. I hope it's true. But Jordan Peele gave the cast 11 horror films to watch so they could have, quote, a shared language when filming. Jaws, Dead Again, The Shining, The Babadook, It Follows, A Tale of Two Sisters, The Birds, Funny Games, Martyrs, Let the Right One In, and The Sixth Sense. So we haven't talked about Jaws. We haven't talked about The Babadook. We haven't talked about The Birds. But all of the rest of them we have discussed on either the Quinny-sode or World of Horror. So I think that's pretty awesome. And that also just the scissors that the doppelgangers have. You know, there's obviously two blades that are connected to one piece of metal. I don't know. It's just like, but she also says that killing the above ground people is what she calls the untethering, you know, the intentional separation from being tied together. Also, Quinn, it was shot over 3 months, which included 6 weeks at a specially modified house in Pasadena.
Shot over, did you say 3 months?
3 months. Okay. Yeah. That's not, I mean, that's a good amount of time, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. That's not really noteworthy average.
Would you ever teach this film in your film class?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I would say that I would have to get a lot more familiar with this film. I only saw it once in the theater, and it was a movie that really, it wouldn't let me breathe. So when I finished the film, I felt kind of like I was having almost a panic attack, but not. But I felt like I hadn't taken any good breaths because of the pacing. And I thought he did a fantastic job. I was scared the whole time. And that's just unusual. I felt like he didn't give me a second to take a breath. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I can't name another film like that where it's been so bold to create that effect on me. Usually I like a slow burn. And so that gives me a lot of breathing room. But there was so much tension and anxiety within this film, and it just kept building. I didn't know the twist going into it. So it really surprised me and it really freaked me out. And I like what you said about, the way that we think about us and them, and the idea that we keep people sort of put away when they don't conform to what we think of as a normal operating human. When there's problems or deficits or things that can't be easily fixed, we do put them out of our mind and sometimes put them away, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I just haven't seen this one enough, because Get Out means so much. And every time I watch it, there's the obvious notes, and then there's the more subtle notes, and I get different things out of it, the nuances, when I watch it over and over again. And with this one, I've only seen it once, and it really blew me away. But it blew me away in a way that I thought, okay, come back to this in a year or two and like take a step away from it and then see all of the beauty that's here. I want to look at it from a perspective that understands the story to a degree, because I can't fully say that I get everything that's going on either in this film. I think he's doing things that I don't understand on first watch. So yeah, I love him. I feel like because we have covered a lot of those movies that he gave, in his sort of syllabus to his actors, would he listen to our podcast?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sure he already does. Friend of the show, Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him too. I think that he has got a cool mind, and I think that you can tell that he likes horror, things that are important, we need to spotlight, because our society is fucked up in a lot of ways. And I think both of these movies talk about that. And that's great. I think that's what film should do, whatever genre if you want to do a rom-com, cool, but also, talk about something, having to do with, I don't know, the wedding industrial complex, or I don't know what you call it, but the whole circus around weddings and how much they cost, or how dating is just gotten very strange in the age of social media. I don't know, but do something with your movie. Like, don't, tell me something.
I think that he set the stage with Get Out to be able to do something that is obvious and not obvious.
Mm-hmm.
He's working on a subtle layer in some capacities within that film, but you can't walk away from that film without digesting some main points that he wants you to get. And that's something we don't see a lot of. We don't see a big step like that being taken. And we should. And I mean, it should be about time. But for some reason, there haven't been filmmakers that have made it mainstream and done something like that, where it is in your face, but also it grows. The film can grow with second, third, fourth, fifth watch, and you can get something that is, operating on a softer place, but still is every bit as important as those big hitters that you definitely walk away understanding. So I don't know. I think that honestly, it's a risk to put yourself out there so much. It makes you vulnerable, and perhaps people don't succeed that way. So I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for Get Out, because I think it just gave him a stage to be able to be trusted enough with, bigger budgets and more ideas. And I know he produces a lot of things, and usually I like those things, but I just wait for, I know his next film is coming out in the summer of, I think 2023. So
Mhm.
it's like 2 years of a wait at this point. But I can't wait for it. And I'm on board and I'll be buying that ticket.
Yeah, I wanted to mention the performances of the women in this movie. I mean, I think everyone is pretty solid, but Elizabeth Moss gets to showcase her talents in this scene where she doesn't speak at all because the doppelgangers don't speak except for Red, Adelaide. she says she's Adelaide, but actually she's Red. That little scene, I don't know how long it is, but it's so cool. She's just looking in the mirror and she does this sort of silent scream thing, and it's just so cool. And also Lupita Nyong'o, great, amazing. Like she's just so powerful and
Yeah, it's almost her performance like sickens me because it's so good. And I think we know how great she is, but this is just another like hits it out of the park on some weird level that I don't even understand. But I am sort of repulsed by her so much in this.
really.
Yeah, just because it's a good thing.
Mm.
I just think she's so great. I mean, we can be repulsed by someone that's like as beautiful and wonderful as Lupita Nyong'o. Like, holy crap, you're amazing. But yeah, there was so much talk of her performance, and there should be, because what she is doing is insane. I can't. That's part of what I can't comprehend. Perhaps is her character. And again, I think there's just things that on first watch flew right past me. I'm excited now to see this again.
Any problems that you had with the movie, Twin? Because it's not perfect. There are definitely problems with this movie. I mean, my boyfriend, okay. He's not a movie person. And he said that he's seen more movies in the time he's been with me than he had seen in his whole life before that. So he watched Get Out. We watched it together. We liked it. And I said, I don't know about this one for you, babe, because you have to buy it, And if you start thinking about how did this work? How come there's no rabbit shit on the floor? I don't know. How did they get all the red jumpsuits? And what if there isn't a tunnel underground in this certain part of the world? And so you start thinking about all these things. There's no, it's silly, but that's not important because it's not about that. What it's about is what we were talking about before, how we are all in this country together, and yet there is this strata, there's this class system that we don't talk about it, and we need to, because it's not right, the way things are now. So all the logistics and everything, are not important, but I feel like he is the kind of person who would sit there and just zone out, tune out, because just too far to go to accept.
Yeah. And then, I mean, so when he watched Get Out, did he question? I mean, obviously, how does this procedure actually work, right?
Yeah.
So is that something that he mentioned as being something he just couldn't get past?
I don't know. We need to have a little conversation about Get Out. I mean, I think he liked it. I just know from watching other movies with him that sometimes he gets hung up on those details, and it's like, it's metaphorical. Like, you don't need to worry about that. You just need to accept it so that, you can look at the deeper message. I mean, I get it too. I don't know. I do it kind of naturally. I'm like, wait a second. So I sort of stop myself sometimes when I'm watching movies, and I'm like, how would this actually work?
Yeah. I think that Get Out is an easier film. I think it's like more digestible. But there are lots of logistical flaws. But you're right. I think when you come out of that film, there's you're looking at the metaphors, and you're looking at Woody's actually straight up saying in that one, especially. And I think Us is more difficult, perhaps, and because it's so hatched together with these kind of things that could fall apart if they weren't done just so, maybe it's easier to critique. But it's difficult for me because it's been a few years since I've seen it, and that was the one watch that I had. So I'm gonna pass on, making any critiques of what, like, the imperfections and stuff, because I don't feel like I can speak intelligently.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I don't know. We don't have a set of questions or things that we talk about, but also knowing I didn't see that piece of trivia about the 11 movies until I had seen the movie. And then I was like, oh, this really, I mean, you can see a lot of the influence of like funny games, Home Invasion, Tale of Two Sisters, definitely. So that's kind of cool just to know that. Oh, the birds. There's a scene on the beach with like all these birds that kind of like swoop down and settle down on this beach. So yeah. So he's obviously a fan of the genre and a student of it. And so me too. I'll sign up for his next movie too.
Oh yeah, heartbeat. I don't care what it's about. I trust him as a filmmaker. I trusted him with Get Out. If he had only made Get Out, I would have been on board anything that he did. Just because it's just, I don't know. I think so highly of it. And this is just, I don't think it's discussed as much. So I really gotta get on board and watch it again.
Okay, I'll watch it with you. I resisted watching it a second time because it's not that I had an unpleasant experience the first time. It's just that it's so heavy and I'm like, that doesn't seem like fun to put myself through that again. But actually it was. Like I said, I enjoyed it more the second time. So maybe I'll enjoy it more the third time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to our next segment, which is called You Foxy Bitch. So The Long Kiss Goodnight is a 1996 American spy action thriller film, which follows an amnesiac school teacher who sets out on a journey to find who she is with the help of a private detective until they discover a dark conspiracy. It's directed by Rennie Harlin, and it is written by Shane Black, who also wrote Lethal Weapon, The Last Boy Scout, The Last Action Hero, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3, and The Nice Guys. I really enjoyed The Nice Guys. It stars Gina Davis, Samuel L. Jackson, Patrick Malahide, Craig Bierko, Brian Cox, and David Morse. It was released on October 11th, 1996. It has a running time of 120 minutes. It is too long. I'm just going to say that off the bat. This movie is too long. 90 minutes would have been better, or even, 100. But this movie is too long. It kind of falls apart there, but there's a bunch of action at the end. It's fun, but the plot goes a little bit wonky at the end also. And it just doesn't have the same tightness that it does in the beginning. I mean, all that said, it is a really entertaining movie and I highly, highly recommend it. And I don't know how many times I've seen it because I love it so much. Both Samuel L. Jackson and Gina Davis are like at the height of their powers in this movie. They look amazing. They have great chemistry. The dialogue is super funny. There's a lot of like back and forth. They make a great buddy team. And then you have all these other people like Brian Cox, and he's got a pretty small role, but he's got some of the funniest lines in this movie. David Morse plays a really bad man. And then Craig Bierko, and I don't know what's happening to me in my old age, but I find older men more attractive. Like Craig Bierko is just on Unreal. And I think he's much more attractive in that show than in this one. He looks like a little teddy bear in this one. And he's supposed to be, a really bad guy, but I didn't really buy it. He's just too soft and fuzzy. But yeah, so we we open on Samantha Kane, as she is known, and she's got a boyfriend and she's got a child. She doesn't remember anything from like 7 years ago back. And then she finds out that she's an assassin. Gina Davis does this cool thing with this performance where she slips in and out of that personality, whose name is Charlie, and so there's the mother and the, sort of domestic side, and she's a school teacher, and then there's the assassin side. And I think she does a really good job. I believe it. It's, well done. She was married to the director, Rennie Harlan, at the time. In the first draft of the script, the name Sam Caine, Samcaine, was not an alias used by Charlie Baltimore, but was instead a creation of her mind as an anagram of amnesiac. On The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon on January 14th, 2019, Samuel L. Jackson listed Mitch as his favorite role. Yvonne Zima, who plays Charlie's daughter, Caitlin, would work with Shane Black again nearly 20 years later on the films Iron Man 3 and The Nice Guys, both directed by Black. Also, Shane Black likes to set movies at Christmas time. This one is set at Christmas time. So is Lethal Weapon, Iron Man 3, Kiss Kiss, Bang Bang, and The Nice Guys. And so at 9 minutes into this movie, Gina Davis's character, Samantha Caine, is in a car accident. And IMDb wanted to make a note that at the beginning of Beetlejuice, she's also in a car accident. We should watch Beetlejuice. What are we doing?
Any day. Actually, just watched it a few weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Watch it tomorrow or tonight.
Okay. Yeah, that's so great. Rennie Harlan is from Finland, and there's a phone booth that has writing on the side that says Helsinki, like Sinki, as in Helsinki, Finland. Okay, Rennie. That's cool. I like to look up the script of movies sometimes, like if they have really funny dialogue, and this one is really fun. I think it would be probably pretty fun just to read, but I mean, if you haven't seen this movie or it's been a while, do yourself a favor. It's a good time. There are a couple of problems with it, a couple of jokes that are really bad, one about rape, and I don't know. Anyway, so there are a couple of clunkers, but I mean, 1996 was 25 years ago, so we are getting better slowly, but some of those are kind of glaring. And like I said, I think it's just too damn long, but it is super enjoyable. And Gina Davis is just a boss. And it's really a shame because after this movie, she didn't do anything until like Stuart Little, I guess.
Have you been reading about her recently? She's really come up front to talk a lot about the women in Hollywood and the idea that once you turn 40, you're done, basically, or you revert to very specific roles. And she's doing a lot of good and she has in the past year to bring that. I don't know why we need to bring that forward into our consciousness, because my God, we know this and we've known it forever. If you are a viewer of film, you understand this, but she's really done a lot in the recent year to bring a lot of big people, like big, powerful people's attention to this fight. Should it be a fight? God, no. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, I saw something that said she's an advocate for gender equality, and I didn't really know what that meant. But yeah, I think it's one of the things that's maybe talked about more. I think we do see more women over 40 now than we did like when I was a kid, but still not enough. I mean, and it's a shame that there just seems to be, I mean, and also like I go on my thing about like plastic surgery fails and stuff, and it's not very nice. I'm sorry, but it just kills me that these women, mangle themselves, because they're not getting work because they're over 40. So, I mean, they're kind of stuck. because I think Diane Keaton's like the only woman in Hollywood who's never gotten plastic surgery. And some people, it looks great. Jean Smart, God bless her, she looks amazing. But I'm sorry, Helen Hunt, something went wrong. So yeah, good. I'm glad she's doing that.
Yeah. This movie, so I mean, I've seen it. It's been a long time, but it just, I don't know. It's sort of like tweaking this other place in my brain that just made me go down a mental tangent of this film I used to watch when I was little. I don't know why we watched this all the time, but again, this is one of those weird things that my friends and I, when we were in 8th grade or whatever, or 9th, whatever, used to watch all the time. Point of No Return. Do you know that movie with Bridget?
No, I don't think I know it. Point of No, that's not the La Femme Nikita.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the storyline just like threw me on a mental trip down that road, because I don't know why 8th graders are watching that movie over and over again, but kind of cool, I guess. Now I want to watch it again. But kind of 90s era. That was earlier than this, but yeah, that wasn't a great tangent, but it makes me want to watch that movie again.
And what happened to Bridget Fonda?
Good question. Oh my gosh, I have no idea. We got to figure that out in the next few days.
Because,
right? We just talked
Foxy Brown, and yeah, we just talked about A Simple Plan and Single White Female.
That was huge.
Yeah. And Point of No Return, I don't think it did very well, but it was an attempt to sort of get her out there more and as an action star.
Yeah.
Maybe it did do well. I don't know.
It did well for 8th graders.
Yeah. Okay. So Gina Davis did a lot of her own stunts on this movie. There's a scene where she is attached to this wheel and David Morse is like plunging her into the water, and that was all real. She also, there's a scene, it's so cool. She's like jumping out of a helicopter or something, and she's got an automatic gun and she like shoots through the ice and they fall through the ice. That was, they were actually like in the water. That wasn't like in a studio or anything. That was like actually freezing cold water. And there was an ice skating scene that they meant to be a little more acrobatic, but they couldn't get it to work. But I still think it's cool that in one scene, to catch up to the bad guys, she crosses this ice rink on ice skates, and it made me want to, ice skate again. So I don't know. I think it's really fun, and her character is super fun, and it's got a couple of discount. If I thought that Craig Bierko was the discount Clive Owen, I've never thought about that before, but I think so. And then I thought that what's his name, Tom Amandes is the discount David Strathairn. So there you go.
Yeah, that was a good point. Yeah.
Brian Cox is just such a doll. I mean, he's a national treasure.
I agree. And I think Gina Davis too.
She is.
Yeah.
I want to be her friend.
Me too.
I want her to be a friend of the pod.
She is. I mean, if we can say that Jordan Peele is, Gina Davis is too.
For sure.
Yeah, this one goes out actually to Jordan and Gina. We love you.
We love you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to talk about The Stepfather. So this segment is called All We Need is a Little Order Around Here. And that is from The Stepfather, which is a 1987 American psychological horror film starring Terry O'Quinn. O'Quinn stars as an identity-assuming serial killer who marries a widow with a teenage daughter. Having killed his previous family and changed his identity, his murderous tendencies continue after his stepdaughter becomes suspicious of him. It's directed by Joseph Rubin, and the screenplay was by Donald E. Westlake. Next page. Stars Terry O'Quinn. I don't know how you say this girl's name. Jill Shalin or Sholin. If it was a Wisconsin girl, it would be Shalin. But I don't know if she is. But that's what I'm going to call her. And Shelley Hack. And it was released January 23rd, 1987. And it has a running time of 89 minutes. So it's right in the max zone. Okay, I suggested this movie. And I'd only seen it one time before, and I, like, sort of in retrospect, realized that Terry O'Quinn was the guy. Because this was before Lost, and I didn't watch Lost when it came out even, so it was later. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy. And I think I did watch the remake. And it's not good. And the reason it's not good is it's not Terry O'Quinn in the lead role. And one of the things that makes him so scary is he talks to himself and he's just like erratic, like emotionally erratic. And what they do in the remake is they make him violent. And yes, that's scary, but it's not, I don't know. There's something about somebody freaking out and witnessing that freak out that is very scary. And I think they did a great job in the first movie where the stepdaughter witnesses that. And, and she's kind of stuck because she's in the basement with him and he doesn't know she's there, but she's just seen him like have a little breakdown. And of course, no one believes her and that whole thing. But I also like the first part where it might even be over the opening credits. Then you just see the carnage in his household and he's like whistling. What is he whistling, Quinn? Do you remember?
Oh, geez. No. Oh my gosh. Now I forgot. It was so funny though. And I can't remember.
Well, it's like Ring Around the Mulberry Bush or something like that. It's like something really like sweet, and on top of all this carnage that you see as he's walking down the stairs and out the house, and then he takes a ferry across the water and he dumps the suitcase with his old identity in it overboard. And I mean, this takes like 2 minutes, you get the whole shebang. And then, he's found another woman and her daughter, and the mom is just head over heels for him, but the daughter thinks there might be something up, and she is correct. So what did you think about this movie, Quinn?
Oh, it was fun. It was a really fun ride. I hadn't seen it. I don't know how it was never on my radar. I don't know how, because in watching it, it was just right up my alley for that time in my life, or maybe a couple years after, where I would, go to sleepovers and we'd watch the same movie over and over again. And, sometimes it was The Point of No Return. Sometimes it was Rat Boy, but it's just, it would have fit in so seamlessly with those choices. And I mean, I don't think I've seen the remake. I know that I had mistaken the remake for a film that starred John Travolta and Vince Vaughn, which was a similar type of movie where the man coming into a woman's life sort of had a nefarious past, but, wasn't to the extent of you get the image of Terry O'Quinn putting on a new face in a home that is blood splattered, and he's like picking up one toy that means something from him, or something to him, whatever. But another thing that struck me about this movie and what you're saying about the remake, in that the remake doesn't have Terry O'Quinn in it, one of the things I think that he does so well in this, and again, this is coming from spoiler alert, I have codependence issues.
That's a spoiler?
But in the beginning of the movie, I was like, just make him happy. He seems so nice.
No.
I was nice to you, just make him happy. It's bad, but he was so nice when he was nice.
Yeah, right.
And as a teenage girl, you're not gonna like that anyways. But he was very sweet.
But no, well, I don't know. I mean, he's sort of insincere. He's sort of got that cheery thing. And I don't know, like at the Thanksgiving dinner, I don't know, it's like put on, it's like fakey. And so, and
it's like lot of, I kind of think he has like a book of cliches that he just like picks a page and is like, family first, family is everything. He just like spouts him off. But I love Terry O'Quinn, and honestly, most of my experience with him comes just from Lost, but John Locke is one of the best characters, I think, that we have in television. So it was delightful to watch him in a late 80s movie just go absolutely fucking nuts. And I loved at the end, too, when he was sort of going to switch families. And his wife said something like, oh, we got to take care of that. And he said, oh, I'm taking care of it. And she said, by yourself? And he was like, yes. But, you knew at that point that he's taking care of it he's going to kill you guys and start a new family. And I did love, you mentioned while we were watching the iconic music, especially with the guy who was hell-bent on finding him, whose sister had been, fallen victim to his ways in the past. Whenever he was driving around in his car, the music clicked on and it just made me so happy.
This is a very 80s movie. It is the music, there was this fashion that I participated in, these really high collars. I don't know if you ever had these, but they came right up to your chin, and they were kind of frilly, and then they would have like these poof sleeves, and both the mom and the daughter are wearing these blouses at the dinner table. And I'm like, I had that shirt. But it's just fun. It's just good, clean fun.
Yeah, this film fits perfectly in this theme. So I had a lot of fun watching it. And right when you were describing it, I remember saying to you, oh, I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch that today. Because it just sounded like fun, and it was. It was great. So, and
the iconic line that is actually on one of the posters, I guess, who am I here? Is something that my husband, when I was married, my husband and I would say to each other. Just randomly. Who am I here? But he says it because he's had so many families in the past. He just starts to he has a little moment there where he doesn't keep his backstory straight, and he's caught, and then he just sort of has to remember what his name is. And he's a great actor for that. And I don't know. I just think it's a fun movie.
And something about him too, I think, and this is kind of what I was trying to say, but it was muddled with mental illness. But something about him is so sensitive and so sincere as well, that it's something about him. I don't know. It's not everything. And I know what you're saying about his sort of fluff. I get that. But something about his face, I do want to trust him.
Oh, yeah.
Even on Lost, I didn't go down John Locke's dumb theories ever. I didn't participate in that. I was always, I wasn't on John Locke's side all the time. But there was something about him that made me want to try a little. Mm-hmm. Even though I just didn't. But no, something about his face. It's like, it's just, he's like a golden retriever face, kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and the guy in the remake he's got a little harder edge to him. Um, it's dumb. Let me just say it's dumb. I don't think it's successful. And
Yeah, it's probably, I guess, maybe the dynamic of stepfather and stepson versus stepfather and stepdaughter maybe just gave way to the violence being more acceptable during the whole narrative playing out. I don't know. I haven't seen the remake, so who knows? But
I think you can watch it for free somewhere. But I have a little bit of trivia. Screenwriter David E. Westlake based the character of Stephanie on his real life teenage stepdaughter, who he was having difficulty getting along with.
girls don't get expelled.
That's a good line. Jill Shalin claimed that she was so disturbed from filming the violent final act, she had recurring nightmares for a week about being chased by Terry O'Quinn. These nightmares occurred as a reenactment of the scenes she was filming at the time. I don't buy that story, do you?
Yeah, I do.
For a week, she had nightmares for a week.
Yeah,
And he must have been so sweet. The man, I'm sure, was like a fucking sweetheart.
I don't know. Maybe he's not. I know I just compared him to a golden retriever, but he's so good that maybe he just uses that sincerity somewhere in his eyes and mouth to fool everyone. He's probably a real psychopath.
The only time I had like a week of nightmares was when I got when that pit bull bit me on my back.
Oh my God, I don't think I know about this.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I've always walked a lot in my life, and one time when I was back in Wisconsin, I was walking through this alley, and there was a pit bull that came came right up to me, and I looked away like, hey guy, I'm walking, and I think my arms were moving too fast, and he jumped on my back, and yeah, it was pretty terrifying. And then I think it's just like, it was scary. It was very scary. So then I had nightmares for like 3 nights.
Ugh.
And you know what's terrible about it too? Is I went to the like urgent care or emergency room or whatever. And this woman's like, dogs don't just attack people. What did you do? And I'm like, I was walking. He wasn't on a leash and he came up to me and he attacked me. And she didn't believe me. So then I was like, I fix up my back, just do whatever you got to do, and let me go home.
Did the dog scratch or bite?
No, he bit. He like leapt on my back and then like did one of those numbers.
Oh my God, that's so traumatic.
It was terrifying. And there were no other adults around. It was just me and this fucking dog. And then I was so sad. I'm like, I love dogs. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
So it was a bummer.
Yeah.
John List, who lived from 1925 to 2008, was the real life killer who inspired the film. Like the film, List killed his family in their suburban home and went on to live under a false identity. Also similar to the film, List continued to leave the house, quote, for work, to keep up appearances with his wife after losing his job. Unlike the film, List did not assume multiple identities, commit further murders, become a stepfather, or use disguises after becoming a fugitive. List did remarry, however, claiming that his first wife had died of cancer. He was finally apprehended after 18 years in hiding and died in prison custody.
Wow. Yeah, I think I remember hearing about him. And I think that he was still married when he was apprehended to the second wife. Although I'm wrong.
I wonder if it was America's Most Wanted kind of situation.
Ooh, oh my gosh, so scary. That show.
Yeah, I watched that show. So we looked it up, and Camptown Races is what he whistles. But director Joseph Rubin originally wanted Jerry Blake, the character, to whistle the Barbra Streisand song "The Way We Were," but but the rights to the song proved to be too expensive.
Oh, that's like part of that song is what I wanted to name our future podcast about memories and stories.
Yeah.
I wanted to call it like the corners of our mind.
Wait, that.
Memories, like the corners of our mind.
Well, maybe we should just call it Misty Watercolored Memories.
Of the way we were.
Misty Watercolored. Watercolored.
Scattered pictures.
Huh?
Of the miles we left behind. Scattered pictures.
Scattered Pictures. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Let's
Babs if we can.
I kind of like that one.
The Camptown races, that's fun. Fun fact about my dad is that he hums things. He's got about 4 tunes that he hums. They're not real songs, but they dictate his mood.
Oh.
So he's humming his quick tune, he's anxious. It's like, and then if he's just like having a good day and everything's fine, it's this one. So there's that.
Do you get a heads up if he's angry? Does he have an angry hum?
It's the anxious hum.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll text you later, but I love you.
I love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Cue Balls. What do you think of that name anyway? I kind of dig it. It's kind of fun to say, it's kind of fun to hear, and it's kind of fun to write. This podcast was a bit of a jigsaw, and we recorded some of the movies in a different order than you hear them on the podcast. And I think I just cut the closing out altogether. So, here that is. Cue Balls! Join us next time on the main episode when Mac and I will be discussing Ju-On the Grudge from 2001, the American remake from 2004, and the American reboot from 2020. Thank you so much for your support, and until we meet again, more dicks.